Nebraska coach Matt Rhule believes that Dylan Raiola is one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks nationally in this 2025 season. Let's talk about whether or not he has a point and why he feels that he needs to say his quarterback is underappreciated. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round. If you're into that, hit that subscribe button, like this video, and join the more than 139,000 folks that have subscribed to the channel and participate in the community by answering this question in the comments below. Do you agree with Matt Rhule that Dylan Raiola is one of the most underappreciated players in the country, period? I understand why Matt Rhule would have us believe that his quarterback is underappreciated. If you look at what Nebraska has been, not historically, but for the past decade, you can come around to his form of thinking. And as a man that inherited a once proud football program that still has a proud fan base, but has not achieved anything worthwhile, basically since 2009, you can see that it's on the floor. And having a quarterback that can flip the program into one where it hasn't seen heights like it did last year for a decade feels like a very big deal. And you know what? That's a trend that I've actually been paying attention to in college football. Who is setting the table for what is to come, right? So my favorite example of this recently is Quinn Ewers at Texas. I genuinely believe that Quinn Ewers is underappreciated for what he did at the University of Texas. This is a program that was garbage, to use that French term, for the better part of a decade. Basically, this last time that Nebraska was relevant, Texas was relevant, 2009, Mac Brown, so forth, so on. And Ndamukong Suh damn near beat Texas by himself. Texas was lucky to escape with the Big 12 championship, and then absolutely got creamed by a Bama team that lost its starting quarterback early in the game. Texas did not come back next year and show people what it was about the way that, say, some others did. Neither did Nebraska. Nebraska went into the tank almost as soon as it went into the Big Ten, and more importantly, after they fired Bo Pelini. A decision I'm sure that some fans think still was correct, but many fans regret because it precipitated what is essentially a decade of not being mediocre, but being flat out bad. Just bad. The reason that I think so is we can't look at Nebraska and being in the Big Ten as anything other than a failure to date. The reason we can't think of it being anything other than a failure to date is because up until about that 2000 period, 2005, I'm being kind of honest about it, you could count on Nebraska to play for a national championship every 8 years, to win a conference championship, to have a Heisman candidate, if not a Heisman winner. 95 Nebraska is on the short list of best programs or best teams of all time. Eric Crouch, Heisman winner. Mike Rozier. We keep going, right? You get to this era of Nebraska with Scott Frost and so forth, and you feel bad for Nebraska. I always say I love Nebraska because I do. I think that football is a lot more fun when Nebraska is good. I think it's more fun when Arkansas is good because these are programs that are not unlike the one that I claim, Oklahoma. That's the pro team in the state. Everybody gets behind it. They've had a sellout at Nebraska every year since like 1969, even when they had to buy out the seats when they're scheduled for them. Right? This year, you got a quarterback who's played 15 games, but in those 15 games has already beat a high-profile team on national television, like, say, Colorado, has brought that team to a bowl game and a bowl victory as a true freshman after they had not been bowling since 2016. And last week, they beat up on Akron. It's Akron. They're not any good, but he still passed for 360-plus yards in that game. They're 2-0. They feel good about themselves. And I think Matt Rhule is trying to say, as they head into another pay game that they're going to beat up Houston Christian for, you need to pay attention to Dylan Raiola and what he's doing. That said, he also understands you got to do it in the Big Ten. That is when we're actually going to start paying attention to Nebraska. When I did the top 25 earlier this week, I was not asking myself, should I rank Nebraska? That wasn't a question I asked. I don't think that's a question I'm going to ask if they beat Michigan per se, right? If it's Michigan alone and nothing else changes, probably not going to rank them. But other things are likely to change. We have huge games this weekend, for instance. Tennessee is going to take on Georgia. I like Tennessee in that game. LSU is going to take on Florida. It would not shock me to see Florida upset the number 3 team in the country as an unranked team because that's actually a top 15 that just laid an egg against South Florida. Nebraska's also going to be able to beat up on a Michigan team that couldn't beat Oklahoma. That's not going to help them. It's not going to hurt them. It's not going to help them. You would much rather Michigan be undefeated when you play them at Nebraska. You also have another true freshman phenom in Bryce Underwood, who is looking to collect his real first big win against an FBS opponent that we care about in Nebraska. Now, would you want Dylan Raiola to set the world on fire? Yes, but his style of play is not one that does that. Dylan Raiola's game is to manage the game, is to make sure that his playmakers get the ball in their hands and to take the check down when it is there. He's not going to force it. He's not a gunslinger. John Mateer is a gunslinger. We saw that. Tip passes, tip balls, throwing interceptions. That's not what Dylan Raiola does well. That's not what he wants to be. He wants to operate within himself and within the offense. And Dana Holgorsen is helping him find out where that fringe is and trying to push him closer to it. He can get there. He can be one of the appreciated players in all of college football, but you've got to start collecting wins against teams we care about. And you've got a schedule that does lay itself up for you to go win 9 or 10 games. 10-win team in the Big Ten feels like it can make the Big Ten championship, or it feels like it can make the college football playoff, if not that. But you have to beat teams like Michigan, and that doesn't happen for another couple of weeks. So I understand him lathering up to go, hey, look, my guy can play. My guy's just a sophomore. My guy's going up. And we also get to say that year 3 of the Matt Rhule experience is one in which you usually can expect 10 wins, 11 wins. He did it at Temple. He did it at Baylor. Why wouldn't he do it at Nebraska? And if that's the case, we'll talk about Dylan Raiola, not like we talk about John Mateer, not like we talk about Arch Manning, not like we talk about Julian Sand, but certainly how we talked about Charlie Brewer. You know, like that's where he lives right now. That's where he will probably live for the foreseeable future. If he gets to that level of acclaim, I think Nebraska fans will take that. Is that what you're used to from a traditional Nebraska quarterback stance? In the 2000s, it is. We're talking about Taylor Martinez days here, guys. We're not talking about Nebraska putting out an absolute stud at quarterback since Eric Crouch. And even then, that's a dude that projected to play safety in the National Football League. If Dylan Raiola turns out to be the kind of player that Matt Rhule thinks he is, and it's not going to be close to Charlie Brewer, it is going to be in that upper echelon of Heisman finalists. We will start to talk about Dylan Raiola the way we talk about, say, Dylan Gabriel or Bo Nix, but you've got so much more to do before we can do that. You've got so much more to accomplish before we begin to think of you like that. And I continue to say this over and over again. I want Nebraska to be good, but you're going to have to earn it. I mean, people are getting tired of folks like myself saying Nebraska's back. We heard this for years, right? Which is why if Dylan Raiola does take Nebraska to the heights that it wants to go to, we will begin to talk about him as a change agent. We will talk about him the way that I talk about Quinn Ewers, a guy that was drafted in the 7th round, but was good enough to keep Arch Manning on the bench. And Arch Manning started at quarterback for a team that was ranked number 1, now ranked still in the top 10. Is that what you're going to have in Dylan Raiola? I can't wait to find out. And I'm sure neither can Matt Rhule.